So, since I don't have that much time, it's already very late. I'm attempting to just talk you through a lap, since that might be a quicker way for me to get these videos produced. So, yeah, what I'm going to do now is just let's go through an entire lap of me without me talking. Just see the lap, and then I'll have another go of it with Jimmy talking over it and pointing out reference points. But yeah, for now I'm just going to shut up and we'll see for the lap. So, that was the lap. So, let's have a look at that lap again then. So, we're gonna start off with the fourth curve, final two chicanes basically. The idea there is basically to carry as much speed as you can to the very first apex and then just coast to the last apex and get as much of all of the curbs as you can. So the first braking point is in between this pillar on the right side of the track and pit entry, the curb in between pit entry and the track. So somewhere in the middle of there, are going to be hard on the brakes from 5th gear down to 3rd gear. It's very important to come back off the brakes again on turning. So down 2 gears. Then we're gonna aim for the first cone right here. We're gonna really take a lot of the first curb because it's underutilized. A little bit on the brakes again, slowing down for the second curb. Again, a lot of curb, but try and be as conservative as you can. I wouldn't go any further than that. A little bit of brakes again for the final chicane. And again, a lot of curbs on both sides. As long as you don't actually bottom out on the curbs itself and you bounce over them like I do here, you won't really get any damage from the bottom of the car. But you do want to make sure that you're not going to go over them and just grind over them. Right, turn 1 is completely flat out till after the first apex, and as soon as you see the track straightening out, that's where you want to be on the brakes. So here the track straight on the brakes, not braking in a straight line, but doesn't really matter that much. Down to 2nd gear, and we want to make sure we take all of the inside curve as much as you can. As long as you don't hit the gravel, you won't get a slowdown. Want to stay in 2nd gear, not brake for a second one, just modulate the power back on out of the throttle again for turning. And then aim for the 2nd cone on the exit. You will have a little bit if you have a little bit of a slide like I did here, you will still be safe. And then take as much of the outside curve as you can. Down the bottom of the hill, it's not really anything special, just flat out. Braking for this corner, the left-hander. Not sure what it's called, but we're going to be braking just after the concrete patch changes, the tarmac changes color basically. So well, just after that, say about here somewhere. From 4th gear, a relatively low amount of brakes, downshift to 3rd gear. And we're going to carry as much speed as we can into the corner, so we're already getting off the brakes before turning, just letting it coast for a little bit towards the apex. And right here, where there's a concrete patch on the inside, there's also a bump right here in the middle of the track. You can't really make it out, but you can see it, you can feel it when you go over it. That kind of marks the apex point, but we're already back on power before we get to that point. So it's almost as we get to the inside curb, we're already getting back on power. And we're gonna watch out for that bump right here, there it is, back on full power. And the next right-hander should also be on full power. I'm just having a small lift for confidence. You can fully utilize the inside curb as well. Going over the hump, you want to make sure that you don't drift out too wide. If you catch the grass there, the barrier is not that far off. Yeah, approaching Tête Rouge, one of the most difficult corners, the most important corners. I'm still not 100% confident with the Ferrari, but basically what I'm doing at the moment is I have a small, I'm using my old reference point. You have the sign here and then the white line that goes all the way across the track. So from all the way left to right, that's basically the mark I use in regards to braking. So just a few car lengths beyond that, a small amount of brakes, stay in 4th gear. Aim for the inside apex, take as much of it as you can, but still keep 2 tires between the white lines. Getting back on power just after the curb, so as soon as I'm on the curb, getting back on power, full power as soon as you're off the curb, and drift it out as wide as you can. For the exit, I try to keep 2 tires back, try to get 2 tires back on the side of the inside the white lines on the when the curb exits. So at this point, basically, I'm trying to be as far to get my right-hand tires back onto the track before the curb ends. Basically, that's what I use to get around there as safe as I can, or as fast as I can, rather. It's not really that safe, but you really have to push if you want to get a good lap out of it. For all of the straights from this point onwards to the Porsche curves, you want to be in the middle of the track, and by being in the middle of the track, I mean being in the middle of the track. So For the entire straight, I'm basically straddling the white line with the middle, center of the car. The idea behind this is, I suppose, that being a crown, there's a crown in the road, and that basically changes the calculation a little bit to give you a little bit of extra speed. Basically makes the car lower than it is in regards to the car. So both chicanes are handled the same way, hard braking at about 150 to 130 meters before the corner. A late downshift to second gear, take as much as you dare of all of the curbs. And it's also important to carry a lot of speed into the first apex and then brake a little bit again for the second apex. So first braking point will be around the where the side road is, basically. There's like a little access road with the yellow sign just before 100 meters, about 120 I'd say. Still full throttle right now, so hard on the brakes all the way down to second gear. Relatively well, in this case it's a relatively early downshift to second gear even, but we're getting back off the brakes before turning, or as we're turning in. Take as much of the inside curb as you dare, back on the brakes a little bit to get slow down for the second apex. Again, for the inside apex is the easiest place to get a slowdown in my opinion, and as soon as we are getting to the apex point, we're already getting back on power. And then just drive it out, use as much of the inside curb as well as you can. The second chicane is going to be handled pretty similar, but in reverse direction. And here again on the straight, being in the middle of the track. So we're going off the middle line about just before 200. Braking will be just before 100, a little bit later than the first chicane, since we're carrying a little bit less speed, but a similar way that we are braking. So just before 100 on the brakes, heavy downshifting down to third gear, and it's a little hesitation waiting for it to go down to second gear. Take a lot of the first inside curb again. A little bit of braking applied again to make sure that I get slowed down for a second apex. This is most likely my easiest place where I get a slowdown because I'm really that much on the limit basically. As soon as we're just past the apex, on the apex point, we're getting back on power again, just as we did on the first chicane. Back on full power just before we're even going straight again. A little bit of correction here. Final curb. You don't have to if you get a good drive out, but if you can, if you want, you can take a lot of the final curb as well. And going up to Mulsanne again, same ideas on the other straights. Get as much in the center of the track as you can. You don't need to be precise, but basically where you want to be is you want to get the white line about in between the cockpit and the upright. Braking for Mulsanne, I try and straight line it as much as possible. Braking point is somewhere in between the end of the white lines here, as the final marking we see right here, and the apex point of the kink right there. I'm already actually getting on the brakes just as I pass the final white line. And there's so I'm just having a little bit of brake on, but my actual braking point is about halfway in between both marks. We're going to be aiming for the cone here on the outside. This is where we want to be in second gear and slow down. As soon as we are past that point, that's when we get off the brakes and start turning in very gently and aim for as much of the inside cone as you can. Again, this is very much on the limit. I'm expecting a little bit of understeer, hence why I'm turning in so much. And the exit isn't the greatest, but I get on power very early, having to correct a little bit. And you can easily use the exit curb without much issue. You do have to be a little bit careful, but if you go over a bit, it shouldn't unsettle the car too much. Right, next straight back again in the middle of the track. You are going to dip down a little bit for both kings, but in general it's stay on the middle line as much as you can. Coming up to Indianapolis is most likely one of the more difficult corners to get completely right. It's more of a habit basically. It's actually a very easy corner with a Ferrari. So at the 100 meter we're still flat out, and as soon as you see the AstroTurf, that's basically your braking point, just past the 100 meters. It's going to be a very short amount of braking, but it does have to be a sizable amount of brakes. So we're at 290 right now, and I believe we're going down to 230 or something. But yeah, just a dab of brakes, downshift to 5th, and then let it coast. I have a little bit of power applied just to keep the car a little bit settled, but basically from this point onward, as soon as we're straight, back on the brakes. Be as much to the right as you can, and the end of the curb right here marks the turning point for the next apex. So again, carry as much speed as you can, start coming off the brake early. There's a lot of camber as with the first apex, so you can carry a lot more speed than you would usually expect in a normal corner. So off the brakes, let it go. As soon as we reach the apex point, basically back on full power almost straight away. You can also use the inside curb. I did a little bit here. You can even use a little bit more. It's also actually not the greatest line, I must say. Go on to the apex a little bit later. And then for the exit, just get back on power very early and just modulate the throttle a little bit if you're not feeling confident, you're going a little bit too wide. See there, I modulate a little bit. And then back on full power up to 4th gear for Arnage. 3rd gear, sorry. Arnage is a very difficult braking point. We'll be braking. There's a white line here that marks, I believe it's 75 meters that marks. I'm not sure what that is. But the white line here on the left, or the end of the barrier almost, you could say as well. And the 50-meter boards about halfway in between is where you want to brake, so just a few car lengths beyond the white line here. Braking will be very hard again. Down to 1st gear, and you want to make sure that if you are going over the outside curb here, you want to modulate your brake. So because as soon as you go over the curbs, you will lock up, and if you lock up the left hand side there, you are going straight. So if you are going over the curb, do make sure that you are easing off the brakes a little bit. So hard on the brakes right here, down 2 gears. I'm going over the curb, so I'm easing off the brakes a little bit, still modulating. As soon as I'm turned in, I'm aiming for the inside apex. I am carrying a lot of speed into it, and I'm getting my power as soon as I'm touching the curb, basically. Again, get as wide as you can. Take care to not go too wide and clip the barrier. But can carry a lot of speed on the exit as well. And here the final straight, again, be in the middle as much as you can, apart from the kink here. But same here, I'm even going right a little bit to follow the seam a little bit longer. And then it's the Porsche curves. A very difficult place to get a good turn in. It's like a lot of confidence again, same as Indianapolis, to know how much speed you can carry into it. So my reference point basically at race speed is the white line we see here. So the middle line is still dotted at the moment. And right there, here it's about to go solid. So this solid line, this entire line represents your braking point basically. As soon as I reach even just beyond reaching the white line, get on the brakes very hard from 6th gear down to 4th gear. And basically what you want to do is you want to curve it around the end of the white line from as much to the left as you can. And that will give you a nice line towards the inside apex again. So if we just go through that down to 4th gear, just around the end of the white line, there's the curve approaching. Still coasting, getting back on power very slightly, and now getting back on full power straight away as soon as before we even fully pass the exit curb arm or the back on full power, well, almost full power. And we're going to try and exit in the middle of the track or as much to the right as you can. If you're going all the way left, you should be slowing down a little bit more. So exiting in the middle of the track, both of the left-handers will require a small lift for confidence. So I'm still flat out. And right here where I'm turning in and I'm hitting the curb, I'm not 100% confident, so a small lift, just to make sure that I keep the car under control. For the exit here, I am touching the outside curb, but basically if you hear yourself going over the outside curb right here, it means you are taking too much risk. if you clip this wall at these kinds of speeds, you will destroy the suspension, almost guaranteed. So if you are hearing yourself go over the curb, back off a little bit more. That's not a safe place to, it's not a safe thing to do. So right here, you can see me, I'm actually on the curb. You can also see it in the car. And if you can see that, that's not a lot of margin. I'm only slightly touching it at this point, slightly touching the curb. So any more that you take, like, you hit the curb, you don't want that. You want to have a little bit in reserve. For the second left-hander, pretty similar approach to the first left-hander. We will require a lift definitely in this corner, maybe not on qualifying trim, but a very big lift in regards compared to the first corner. Aim for the inside curb again, back on power almost straight away. Small amount of power, and then with the transfer the left-hander, you will brake again and downshift to third gear. And then it's back off the brakes again and just coast and carry as much speed as you can. As soon as you've braked, you don't want to touch the brakes again. You see me, it's like slightly rubbing the brakes, it's just my feet dragging on it a bit. But you want to get back on power as soon as you can and just keep it there and just balance it on the throttle. You want to be on full power for the exit and exit in the middle or as much to the right as you can. And again, as the track straightens out, and we're on the straight part right now, you want to apply a very small amount of brake, and just to make sure that you can reach the inside apex. It's very important to get that inside apex. So as you see it right there, it was, that was not a lot. So from 200 down to what, 190. So it's more for confidence basically, and making sure that I can reach this inside apex. For the exit, you don't want to go all the way out there and go wide. You want to exit basically as much in a straight line as you can. And keep to hug this white line. You don't need to swing back out and back in. Just hug this line, clip both of the curbs, just go straight over, and it's not an issue at all on the Ferrari. And then approach to the final two chicanes again. So again, braking just after the sign right here and before the apex of the chicane, the curb of the chicane. From 5th gear down to 3rd gear. Carry a lot of speed into the first chicane, aim for that first cone right there. I see I'm already aiming towards it. You're never going to hit it. The chance that you're getting an off track on the left-hander is much smaller than you do on the right-hander. Then this one again, very much on the limit. As soon as we exit, a bit of power again, and then a small amount of brake down to 2nd gear. And then you have to keep both of the curbs as much as you can. I'm slightly off on the first one, which causes me to have a much bumpier ride on the second one, but still I would still say it's on a safe way, but it won't damage the car like this anyway. And then it's basically a simple dash to the line. So just to look at that again, the final chicane, just to see how much I'm actually cutting it, because that's a very easy place to lose a lot of time. So from the exterior cam, hard on the brakes, down to 3rd gear. Off the brakes on turn-in, aim for that very first cone, hit it. Back on the brakes again, a small amount to make sure I have my turn-in. I was very much on the limit, and then again a small amount of brakes down to 2nd. Then aim for that first one. It's a little bit off, I'm not getting the rotation of the curb, and then I'm clouting this one. But as you see, I'm hopping the curb, basically I'm jumping all over the biggest part, so I'm not actually damaging the car at that point. Yeah, that's about it basically. I'm going to watch my other lap as well, so on lap 6 at 48.4, because I must say this lap was not a perfect lap. I overdrove a lot of corners, and I'm not sure how this lap is. So this one will be at race speed again. I'm just going to analyze it and see if this was a better lap or not. So, second lap. So this is the line you want to take, basically. You don't want to drift wide or anything, you just want to keep a tight line on exit. Alright, the first, the second, bit of brakes, down to 2nd. Missing the apex there, clouting the 2nd one, that's a bit much. Losing a little bit of time with that poor exit. let out through the first one, brake in a straight line, hit the first apex. Don't touch the brakes, stay on power. Not the greatest again, losing a bit of extra time. Brake as the concrete, changes it down to thirds, back on power before the apex. Full power with the second apex. Dab of brakes after the line, goes to the apex. On power early. Avoid a bit of luck with the Porsche here. Giving me a little bit of time down the straight by the looks of it. But again, middle of the track. As much as you can. Want to be sure that you take care with traffic, etc. If you have traffic coming, pick a lane. Don't stay in the middle. It will cause issues. Braking hard, 150 down to second. Carry a lot of speed into it. Bit of brakes for the second apex. That was nice. That was a good line. Yeah, I caught up quite a bit there. Now back into the middle of the track. Right, swinging back over to the right hand side again, braking hard, late downshift to second. Carry a lot of speed into the first one. Back on brakes, a little bit wider but safer. Good exit as well, that was intentionally that I cut that final one. Gaining a little bit of time to my other lap. And again, back in the middle, as much in the middle as you can. I'm a bit off here, you don't need to be perfect, but right, braking hard after the white line. Turning after the cone, very nice. Good exit, not too bad. Back to the middle. Again, always in the middle of the track if you can. It will gain you a lot of time, just do the comparison. You'll notice it for yourself. Again, dip down for the king, back to the middle of the track. Braking hard for the Indianapolis, down to fifth, goes to the second apex, down to second. Early on power every time. Brake, downshift, bit of power to keep the car balanced. Slightly better, yep, that was a good line. Stay on the left, watch out for the curb. See me coming off the brakes there, miss the apex there, but not a bad line overall. And the Porsche again, brake at the white line, off the brakes at the white line, ends, goes to the apex, get on power early, double left-handers, a small lift and a big lift, and downshift down to third, so to fourth, coast, back on power, full power. Little lift, there it is, back on power, bigger lift, back on the brakes down to third, coast, balance it. Back on full power, small double brakes, get to the apex, straight line the exit, stay right, hit both apexes. Very nice. A little bit hard on the brakes, down to third. A little bit of brakes again for the second one. Brakes again, down to second, hit both apexes, very nice. Good jump. Oh. Both laps are pretty close. So, hopefully this will render quite fast since it's already getting quite late. And yeah, let me know what you thought of it. I'm not the best at live talking. Basically, I typed an entire document out with what I thought on all of the corners, but well, I ended up not really using it. So let me know. And if you have any questions, I'll be available for DGFX practice most likely. So yeah. Thanks for watching, I hope you learned something.